Well, leading energy chiefs have issued a stark warning today to the public about the issues surrounding a hung parliament at this year's federal election. Georgie Dickinson is in the teal-held seat of Goldstein. Georgie, good morning to you. So what was the message from the energy chiefs today?
Good morning, Pete. Well, they certainly haven't minced their words. They say that a hung parliament will be a nightmare and will lead to horrific policy outcomes. In terms of who those energy chiefs are that have actually said this in speaking to The Australian this morning, one of those included the Beach Energy Chief Executive, Brett Woods. He says that this needs to be done and to stop voting for the independents in teals, to stop the nation falling apart and to stop unemployment rising. Another person that did speak in The Australian includes the Woodside Chief Executive, Meg O'Neill. She says, and I quote, that this would frankly be a nightmare. Now, where we are today is in the seat of Goldstein. This is held by the Teals' Zoe Daniel, and she is recontesting this seat at this election. Now, it has been held by the Liberals from 1984 to 2022, and Tim Wilson was the Liberal person that held this seat. He will be recontesting this seat at the next election, and it will be interesting to see if the movement does turn away from the Teals in this election. Now, this article further went on to say, and Brett Woods went on to say, that if you care about the future of this country, those protest votes need to be directed away from any minor parties, Teals and independents, who don't hold a pragmatic education and holistic strategy to make Australia a better place to live. So certainly a stern warning there from those energy executives. But Pete, I have been speaking to people on the ground in these seats that have been held by the independents and teals, and a lot of people want to see a movement away from the major parties. They want to see the change in cost of living. They want to see cheaper alternatives to this to help with their weekly budget. So it will be an interesting one to watch over the coming weeks to see if that movement in some of these seats that have been held by the Teals and independents stays that way in this federal election.
All right, Georgie Dickinson, thank you. Well, she's not a teal, but she is an independent. Jacqui Lambie from the Jacqui Lambie Network joins us now. So just off the back of that, Jacqui, the bosses of Beach and Woodside with those major concerns at what a minority government will mean. If it's in Labor's favour, the Greens and Teals hold the balance of power. So do these mega companies have a case to be distressed?
Yeah, I'll start listening to the mega companies when they're not giving out political donations for their own sake, mate. That's what this comes to, and that's rubbish. We had 9 years, I'd remind the Australian people, 9 years under Liberal. All right, we had that under the Liberal National Party. You voted them out because they couldn't reduce their energy costs either. And Christ is my hell, that is now flowing on. This is not the last 3 years. This is flowing on from their mess. So this is not just 3 years in the making for guys out there, but seriously, that is really mean-spirited of those companies out there to be going at those teals. It's almost bullish, and I'll call you out for it. You are shameful. And by the way, I'll do a scrap today about over millions of dollars you've been feeding into the Liberal Party over the years. That's what this is about. We're getting nasty already, and the election hasn't even been called. I suggest those people stand at the sideline and mind their own bloody business.
Is it going to be, just on the point of how things would change and if the Teals and Greens hold the balance of power, I mean, is it just going to lead to more progressive decision-making, though?
First of all, the Teals are not the Greens, OK? They're all individual members out there, and they've earned that right to be in Parliament.
But they vote mostly along Greens lines, or similar to, right?
Well, a lot of the stuff that's coming out right now with Labor is more so a little bit more to the left. So, everyone's voting. We're all trying to do what we can to manage the country the best way that we possibly can, mate. I've seen those women at the table. They're very open to conversation. They're very easy to deal with. I can tell you what, they're a hell of a lot easier dealing with those teals and most of those independents than what it is those major parties up there. So, seriously, really, it's nearly laughable. It's embarrassing for Woods and them this morning to come out and call this stuff. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
OK, Jacqui, speaking of Tasmania, where you are at the moment, with a good pair of binoculars, you might be able to spot 3 or so Chinese warships. What do you think they're up to?
Yeah, no, they're staying their distance. They're very scared of Tasmanians, mate. I'll tell you now, we have our own secrecy thing going on down here. They don't want to come anywhere, and as sure as hell don't want to come anywhere near the top when Jacqui Lambie's here. But, mate, look, I want to keep everything really calm here. This is nothing new. I just want these Australian people to know the Chinese are always trying to stick out their chest. They're like the little boy that cried wolf. They never do the right thing. So if you're going to expect to tell them they're doing live firing, they're not mates of ours. This is what they do. Quite frankly, I'm more worried about the money that we are wasting for those new submarines and that AUKUS deal, and knowing that right now, if there was, if there was a massive war around the country, we're not prepared to defend ourselves, and that really bothers me more than anything. And we need to be talking about that. And we should have a lot more missiles, long range and short range, covering right around Australia.
Well,
we just don't have that, and that is shameful in itself.
On that point, I know we've spoken about this quite a few times, but you've seen overnight that the Brits are now upping their defence spend to 2.5% of GDP by 2027. So it's another 28 billion, I think, per year. What level do you think we need to be getting at to increase our defence spending?
I think we don't need our defence spending, yeah, sure, but how about all the waste? If we stopped all the waste, we wouldn't have to lift our defence spending. And that's the truth of the matter, mate. That's what the embarrassment is here. So, that's where we're at. Quite frankly, we're in an economic situation. People can't put bread and milk on their table. But if we stopped all that bloody waste in defence, my God, we would be a force to be reckoned with. And that's the truth.
So just a final one, and back to this defence breach, if you like, that Virgin pilot being the first to spot the live fire drills that you were talking about a short time ago. Should it be embarrassing that a commercial airlines pilot was able to pick it up before, say, Defence was, or is it just a fortunate coincidence that happened?
What is embarrassing here, we've been talking about this for 4 days, and I haven't had what does he call himself, the Deputy Prime Minister, because that's more important than being called the Defence Minister of this country, has not come out and explained all this to the Australian people. He should be bloody absolutely ashamed of himself this morning. This bloke, and I'll call him out, is like a deer in the headlights. He's like a groupie around defence. Seriously, get him changed over and get rid of him. He can go and be the Deputy Prime Minister, but give me someone that's actually serious about being a Defence Minister. But if he wanted to calm people in the last few days, he could have done that. Okay. It is absolutely shocking what Richard Marles hasn't done. All
right, Jacqui, we are out of time, but good as always to talk to you. We'll chat again next week.